lines at the funeral, not very good. But if you want, I want to show you, the movie's called Antiquities, and these are my lines. I'm the tan UPS guy, as Rex did, the tan beefed up UPS guy. So I walk up to the counter, Roger Scott's there, and he goes, he's really a smart aleck. He goes, "What's this?" And I go, "It's a box." And he goes, then he chides me for about 10 minutes. I go, "Just sign it, please." So here we go. It's a box. Just sign it, please. Oh, that's it. That's all I got. That's all I got. That's why it took us 4 hours to shoot that scene last week. No joke. No joke. A lot of different angles there. I did want to remind everybody, it's hard to believe this is the 12th week, and so many of you are here every week. Matter of fact, if you've been here every week, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Let's give those folks a round of applause. How about that? Very impressive. Not everybody can make it every week. Like I said, I was very disappointed, but I watched online. I monitored Rex and his delivery. And Gary Underwood's missing today, and that's a shame. But
before I lead us in prayer, on your tables are some little brochures there about the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame. And we're going to be renting out the facility. So if you have a grandchild or a child or buddy, if you have a corporate group that you'd like to come and use our facilities and just have the whole museum for your event, let us know. We think you'll enjoy it. If you haven't visited the museum, give me a call, and we would love to show you some great sports memorabilia. Well, let's pray. Father, we're grateful for a beautiful day. We thank you for the coolness of the weather that you've given us. Father, we also thank you for the fellowship that we enjoy around the tables. We ask you now to bless our time together for those who speak to us, that there be challenge, there be encouragement for us, but in all things that you would be honored. But Father, we also realize that our nation now is at a very great spot. Tomorrow we vote for a president. And so we just pray, Father, not for one particular event, but for your people, your nation, to vote their hearts. And Father, for you to bless our nation again. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Can you guys believe that this is week number 12? Week number 12. I mean, we've been going at this. Can you guys remember when Herm Edwards was our speaker? Danny Warfel? Remember when Bosworth spoke to us? Remember that? The Bos got a little emotional? We've had quite the year. So we've got 2 meetings to go after today. We've got next weekend. I just want to let y'all know that the athletic director of the University of Texas is coming here. That's not often that you get the athletic director from another university to come to Little Rock to speak to a touchdown club, especially what's going on with Charlie Strong. He's coming here to be a part of the James Street Outstanding Sportsmanship Award. And how many of you have been to that? Yeah, let's give a round of applause to that. How about that? It is one of our best meetings of the year. We're going to honor 13 outstanding young men and ladies, if they have been appointed, who may not be the most super athlete, but they contribute to their schools. It's uplifting. Remember our winner last year? His mother was murdered. Dad was nowhere to be found. He was taken in by the coaches. And what a great kid playing at OBU right now. Mm-hmm. So if you want to be uplifted, I want there to be a big turnout next week, because also I've been told there might be somebody from the media from Austin coming to Little Rock, because they want to sort of see what's going on. Why is Arkansas honoring James Street? I think we may be the only club that actually honors him. So we want a big attendance next week. So please come if you can to hear Mike Perrin, the UT AD. Now, we're not going to ask him about Charlie Strong. We'll leave that to the media folks, Jeremy and everybody else. We'll leave that for you, but we won't ask him that. But I expect a very fun meeting and inspirational meeting next week. Aaron Taylor will be the week after that. Aaron Taylor did the game this weekend for CBS. He's a sharp guy. He'll be here 2 weeks from now. He's outstanding. Also, on the website now, you can book your Archie Manning tickets for January 19th. So that's going to be our award ceremony. It's a great night. We honor the Cliff Harris Award winner and all of our big trophies, Willie and Dan Hampton. So make sure and get your tickets online for that. Also, if you want to be a part of the Brules Award this year, it's December 6th. Go to brulesaward.com. If you can, please buy tickets and be a part of that awards banquet as well. So, Coach Brules this weekend. And we're lucky to have him. I don't know how much longer we're going to have him, but I tell you, no matter where he's at mentally, He's still just as charismatic, and it's just really a special, legendary guy. I want to remind everybody, you can listen right now. We want you to mute your phones. You can tell folks to go to 103.7 The Buzz and listen live. You can go to lrtouchdown.com and listen online, high-definition stream. Soon, coming next week, you can tell people to go to their Facebook page. We're going to be live on Facebook. So you can watch on Facebook, and also our new Buzz app. If you download the Buzz app from the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, whatever it's called, you can, there it is right there. You can actually click on there and tell somebody, download the app, it's for free, and watch the meetings live. So I tell you, Rex, no other touchdown club in America does that. And I think it just shows how progressive we are. And let's give a round, if you're a member, let's give a round of applause to all of you guys who have joined from 50-yard line members to members. If you're a member, let's give a round of applause to yourself for being members, because we couldn't do it without you. If you can, let me run through our sponsors real quick. Twin City Limo, thank you, Dale Bennett, Greg Hatcher, for your support all year for all of our speakers. CJRW, Mark Raines, Dan Sawyer, Darren Gray, thank you so much. The Cliff Harris Award is underway. Right now, we've got nominees from all over the country that are being nominated for the Outstanding Small College Defensive Player of the Year. CJRW is helping us with that promotion. LRCVB, Gretchen Hall, David Russell. The Convention Center is opening up Robinson Auditorium this Thursday. We appreciate them, and they're proud to be called the Little Rock Touchdown Club. 103.7 The Buzz. Good to see Tommy Smith here almost every week. Tommy's is our police cop when it comes to if you turn your radio, if you have your phone on, he's coming to get you if it makes any noise. So he busted. Thanks, Tommy and the Buzz and Justin and Pat for being out here every day in the lobby. We appreciate them. War Memorial Stadium, like Tom said about the Hall of Fame, if you want to book some fun things during Christmas, during holidays, call Jerry over at War Memorial Stadium. We're proud to have them as a sponsor. Epic Health. I didn't get our Epic Health civil servant. We don't have one today. Guys, it is we're finally at Prostate Month, right? Prostate Awareness Month. Go get checked, guys. Ladies, if you're with your guy, tell him go get checked. Epic Health will do a $1,600 screening for free. It might save your life. So we appreciate Mike Whitfield, Scott Davis at Epic Health. Also, Farm Bureau of Pulaski County. I mentioned the app. I do want to thank Todd Dennis and Shauna Harper, because they're the two who sponsored doing that app. So, Todd, thank you so much. Shauna, the value of having that app. And if you have any insurance needs, go to these folks. Tell them you've heard about them at the Touchdown Club, and let them take real good care of you. We appreciate Farm Bureau of Pulaski County being with us again. Wendy's and Nan Trammell, Dan Hampton Award right there. Dan, by the way, has confirmed that he's going to be at the banquet. So we're going to have Archie Manning, Dan Hampton, and Cliff Harris all at our awards banquet. So pretty darn cool. So thank you to Wendy's for their sponsorship of our awards for Dan Hampton and Willie Rowe. Also, Wright Lindsay and Jennings. I didn't know this, Rex. Judy Henry sent me, and every week she sort of sent me something new about Wright Lindsay and Jennings. They have a technology team. Tell me if this sounds familiar. They have experts that can assist. Talk about the national discussion on certain things. Record retention, data destruction, related litigation, cyber attacks, and security breaches. So what you've been hearing about on the national level, Wright Lindsay and Jennings can actually help on the local level, state level with your company. So make sure and give them a call if you have any issues. Maybe one candidate probably could have used Wright Lindsay and Jennings earlier in the year. Just saying, just having fun with that. Also, too, we couldn't have the Cliff Harris Award without Wright Lindsay and Jennings. Thank you so much for their sponsorship and for Judy Henry's leadership on that as well. Also want to thank Crane Automotive, Arkansas's largest family-owned dealer group in Arkansas. 800 Arkansans they employ. Make sure and tell them that you heard about them at the Touchdown Club. Make sure they give you a good deal. The Democrat Gazette, Amanda Copley, I think, has been at every meeting this year. Thank you, Amanda, for your support. We'll have our Player of the Week, and Wally Hall, of course, as well. We'll have our Player of the Week here in just a minute. And Simmons Bank, we're flanked over here. Chris White on my left, Carol Smith on my right. And did you guys hear, Simmons has so thankfully been the sponsor now, 3 years in a row. And I was on Paul Feinbaum this Friday. And how many of you remember when Paul Feinbaum took a shot at Lunch for Bridges at the head stage? Well, he actually remembered that on stage. And he said, yeah. I said, yeah. He talked about coming to the Touchdown Club. What a good time he had. And I said, yeah, you took a shot at our sponsor. He said, I didn't know that when I was taking a shot at him. And so Lunsford heard it. And so he referenced that twice. So it's great that Paul Feinbaum references his 2 trips to the Touchdown Club. And Lunsford, thank you so much for your vision and believing in the Touchdown Club, and for Simmons Bank picking up the ball and running with us and taking us to the next level. Chris, always great to have you here. And Carol, great to have you here today. Let's give a round of all of our sponsors, a round of applause to all of our sponsors. We're proud to be here at the embassy. They work very hard each week to take good care of us. Thank you, Hamant and Beth, so much. We appreciate them. Matt Johnson, Fidelity Local 6. He's the one that does all of our filming. All these lights, he comes in every week, sets up. Everything's archived. If you want to go back and watch Bo, not Bo. Let's say it should be Bo next year, but Brian Bosworth. If you want to see that speech, any other speeches, they're all on our website. Thanks to the hard work of Matt Johnson and his partner back there, Aaron and Garrett. We appreciate them being here each week. Dwight, where he is? Dwayne Duncan right there. He takes more pictures than anybody in America. Thank you, Dwayne, for what you do every week. We still have some hard copies, too. If you've taken pictures with any of our guest speakers, make sure and take that out when you leave because we have those there. We want you to take advantage of them. RJ Hawk is not here today. He handles our social media, Hawk Media Solutions. Our Twitter account is at LR Touchdown Club. Don't forget, get the app, and the hashtag is LRTDC. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, I do want to mention this real quick. First of all, we have the best chicken ladies in America. There are only 2 here today, and I want to make mention. One is Melissa Nelson, which is Rex's wife, our super couple here at the Touchdown Club. She has not missed a meeting all year at the front desk, and they just did it through today. And Marilyn Miller, who was with us the first meeting we had 13 years ago. You two stand up. Let's give them a round of applause because they have been chicken warriors. I also want to thank 3 guys that come in here every meeting before y'all get in here and put up all these little placards. It's Debbie's Army, Debbie's Male Army. It's Lewis Nally, Ron Skaggs, and Lee Danner. Would you guys please stand? Let's give them a round of applause. They do it every week. And then I have to mention, I was talking to Debbie Sonny driving back from Fayetteville. My dad was with me, and I was on speakerphone. I was talking to Debbie about the setup, and Debbie started talking about the game and about the player changes by Brett Bielema. And she was talking about, this strategy. When we hung up, my dad said, wow, that's great to hear a woman talk football that knows football like that. And so how about that, Debbie? Let's give her a great round of applause, our executive director, Debbie Wyman. And it is. I had to, we could hire other people, she doesn't make a lot of money doing this, but she knows football. She's passionate about football, and that makes, as you guys know, working with her, it's great to work with her, Debbie. She does a great job. Plus, Debbie's helping with the Cliff Harris Award. All these nominees coming in, she does that too. So there's some things behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see that she does for the Touchdown Club. All right, it's time for our Democrat Gazette All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week. He is Little Rock Christian running back Ladarius Burns. Now, Ladarius is coming up here. Listen to this game he had 2 weeks ago. He had 195 all-purpose yards, 19 carries, 92 yards, 103 yards on 3 catches. He had 6 touchdowns in the win, over Mills, 49-20. This past week, he had 4 carries for 85 yards and 1 touchdown. They beat Fair 51-3. He's only a junior. So as Coach Jeff Weaver said, he's excited about him having him back next year. Let's give a Touchdown Club welcome to Ladarius Burns, our Player of the Week.
There it is.
Do want to thank Ladarius' mom, Debbie Daniels, stepfather Lucian Hyatt. Thank you both for coming here. Coach Weaver, you're going to the playoffs. We wish you the best of luck. The playoffs start this week.
That's right.
Can we have a little bit of cold weather for high school football? My gosh, what in the world has happened? Well, what a great weekend it was in football across the state of Arkansas. And nobody recaps it better than our man Rex Nelson. Let's give it up for Rex Nelson, everybody.
Thank you, David. Time for the weekend recap brought to you by Simmons Bank. Let me hear that movie line one more time. I got to hear it.
It's a package. Just sign it, please.
Let's hear it for that. David. There we go. Uh-oh.
It's a box. Just sign it, please.
Cut. He's got a future. He's got a future. David referenced Coach Broyles. That reminded me when Coach Broyles was here years ago, David, I surprised him because I remembered his 2 lines. Some of you really old-timers remember in the old miniseries, The Blue and the Gray. Coach Broyles was Lincoln's doctor after President Lincoln was shot at Ford's Theater. So they're in this house waiting, and the doctor comes out, and he had two lines. His first line was, "The wound is mortal. All we can do now is wait." And then his second line, he simply comes out and he said, "The president is dead." And I'm sure millions of viewers across America said, "Of course he's dead. Listen to that accent. He's a Confederate sympathizer, his doctor." All right, let's get to football. Finally, Arkansas defeats Florida in an SEC game. And in a big way, 31-10 to go to 6-2, bowl eligible, 2-3 in conference. Florida falls to 6-2, 4-2. A loud crowd of 74,432 in Fayetteville. Great game for Raleigh Williams, 148 yards on 26 carries. Drew Morgan, 7 receptions, 95 yards. Williams now has 955 yards on the season. Drew Morgan, meanwhile, has now caught passes in 23 consecutive games. So very, very impressive for those two. Arkansas outgained the Gators 466 to 241. There was no fluke about this one, and the Hogs led in time of possession 39-21 to 20-39. So Arkansas now 2-9 against Florida. As David said, he was in the previous victory, the 1982 Bluebonnet Bowl down in Houston, 28-24. Arkansas held Florida to 12 rushing yards a week after giving up 543 rushing yards. I can't explain it either. Just glad it happened. 241 total yards. Florida took only one snap in Arkansas territory in the first half. That's it. And they were 1 of 11 on third down. Very impressive. Arkansas, 466 yards of offense, including 223 on the ground. And now it's time for David Basil's boot to come out. Battle of the boot this week. So it should be a fun week leading up to that. Back on Thursday night, Arkansas State defeated Georgia State 31-16 in an empty Georgia Dome. I've never seen this many empty seats in a big stadium. I know they don't draw anybody at Georgia State, but ASU went in and took care of business. That was the 4th consecutive win, all conference games, for a team that started 0-4. You remember we had Coach Anderson here, and he'd won his first 2 conference games and got on me for picking against them on my blog in those 2 games. Well, I picked them the last 2 games, and they're rolling. They've now won, get this, 13 consecutive Sun Belt Conference games. So Georgia State falls to 2-4, 1-4 in the conference. ASU again 4-0 in the conference, 4-4 overall. 2 special team scores for the Red Wolves. Blaze Taylor returned a punt 68 yards for a touchdown, and Chris Humes returned a blocked field goal 57 yards for a touchdown. And we heard from the coach last week, how about those UCA Bears? 7-0 in conference play, 8-1 overall, a convincing 34-14 win at Stephen F. Austin, which is coached by Clint Conk, the former head coach at UCA, and the quarterback is Zach Conk, who played at Little Rock Catholic. Stephen F. Austin's final score of the game came with 14:56 remaining in the first half. So the Bears basically held them scoreless for the last 3 quarters. The Bears outgained the Lumberjacks 502 to 321. And if UCA can beat Nicholls State this week, the stage is set to go against undefeated Sam Houston State, the number 1 team in FCS, for the conference title on the 19th. And that'll be the... That is down there, yeah, in Huntsville. But that'll be the game of the year nationally, actually, in the FCS. For UAPB, I'll mention it, things have gone from bad to worse. An 0-8 Mississippi Valley State team came into Pine Bluff and beat the Golden Lions 41-7 before an announced attendance of only 1,300 people. First time for a Monty Coleman coach team to ever lose to a Mississippi Valley State team. Delta Devils came into the game with 85 yards rushing for the season. Now, you didn't hear me incorrectly. That's not an 85-yard average per game. 85 yards rushing for the season. They were averaging just over 10 yards a game rushing. They gained 161 against UAPB and won by 34 points. So UAPB falls to 1-8 overall, 1-6. Congratulations to the Bisons of Harding. They are the new Great American Conference champions. For the first time since the conference was created, the title's outside of Arkadelphia. Henderson won 3, Ouachita won 2 of the first 5. But Harding wins it this year. They're 10-0. Henderson's 8-2. Southern Arkansas's 8-2. Ouachita's 6-4. Arkansas Tech 6-4. And UAM is 4-6 going into the last week of the regular season. Harding wins 24-7 over Northwestern Oklahoma. That's their first conference title since 1989 when they were in the old AIC. It's the first 10-win season at Harding since 1972. Still have the top rushing attack in NCAA Division II. They rushed for 392 yards in this game. Henderson still good. They're 8-2, a 40-7 win at Southern Nazarene. Reddy scored on 3 of their first 4 possessions and outgained 1-9 Southern Nazarene, 543-157. There we go. I knew one of them would come out. I'm going to have to start telling Reddy jokes here. It's Battle of the Ravine week. Ouachita is 6-4 despite all the injuries. 51-28 win at 2-8 Oklahoma Baptist. Gary Underwood's alma mater. He wouldn't even show this week and sit with me at the table. Tigers trailed 7-0 after an early pick 6, but then scored 24 unanswered points. Ouachita secures its 9th consecutive winning season. That's the most consecutive winning seasons for any college football program at any level in the state. Southern Arkansas having a good year. They're 8-2, 37-24 win at 1-9 East Central Oklahoma. Michael Nunnery rushed for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. Barrett Renner, he's just a sophomore, great quarterback, 23 of 30 passing, 194 yards. Arkansas Tech, after some down years, will now have 2 consecutive winning seasons. Wonder Boys are 6-4, 24-20 at 4-6 Southwestern Oklahoma. Tech has now won 4 of its past 5 games. In fact, the only one of the 6 GAC schools from Arkansas that does not have a winning record is UAM. Bo Weevils fall to 4-6, a 44-26 loss at 6-4 Southeastern Oklahoma. But they have a good sophomore quarterback, too, at UAM. His name's Cole Sears. He was 20 of 42 passing, 355 yards. In the NAIA, Langston beat Line 40-12. NCAA Division III, Hendricks falls to 6-3, a 49-46 loss to Washington University in St. Louis. Warriors lost despite having 631 yards of offense. That's 2 weeks in a row, Jim. I mentioned it last week, that they've topped 600 yards and lost the football game. How often do you hear about that? They've got a great running back, Dayton Wynn. He rushed for 264 yards and 4 touchdowns. Got a good quarterback, Seth Peters of Hendricks, 28 of 39 passing for 276 yards and a touchdown. All right, on to the SEC. An old-fashioned, wasn't it, if you like defensive matchup in Baton Rouge. Alabama, of course, wins it 10-0 at the end. Tide's 9-0, 6-0 in the conference. Tigers come into the game against the Razorbacks 5-3 overall, 3-2 in the conference. 102,321 in attendance at Tiger Stadium. Of that 102,000, only 3,464 were sober, according to the stats provided to me by the Sports Information Department in Baton Rouge. Tide outgained the Tigers 323-125. Jalen Hurts, 114 yards on 20 carries, the game's only touchdown. Leonard Fournette of LSU had just 35 yards on 17 carries. Last year against the Tide, Fournette had only 31 yards on 19 carries. I don't think LSU would have scored if they'd have played 8 quarters on Saturday night from the looks of it. Fournette just 66 total yards in 8 quarters against the Crimson Tide. How about Mississippi State shocking Texas A&M in Stark Vegas, 35-28? State's just 4-5 overall, just 2-3 in the conference, but they pulled the big victory against an Aggie team The Aggies acted like Aggies. They get up to number 4 in the first college football playoff ranking, come in 7-1, 4-1, and they lose it. Mississippi State rushed for 365 yards in that game. Auburn keeps winning. Wasn't easy on Saturday, but they're now 7-2, 5-1 in the conference, 23-16 over Vanderbilt, which falls to 4-5 and 1-4. That was Auburn's 6th consecutive win. Now get this, Auburn, they were about to run off Gus Malzahn when he was 1-2. He may have been fired instead of Les Miles if that last play had gotten off on time. Now get this, Auburn can win the SEC West with victories over Georgia and Alabama. I don't expect them to beat Alabama, but we've seen strange things happen in the Iron Bowl, haven't we? Interesting. Georgia goes to 5-4. They're 3-4 in the conference, 27-24 over Kentucky, which is 5-4, 4-3 in the conference. The East is really bad, isn't it? Kentucky had a 3-game winning streak snap. Georgia won it on a 25-yard field goal as time expired. Tennessee non-conference game, 6-3 now, 55-0 over 3-6 Tennessee Tech. Tennessee scored on 7 of its first 8 possessions in that game. Ole Miss, boy, sour season there. They're 4-5. They won, but they had to struggle in their non-conference game. 37-27 over 4-5 Georgia Southern, and you may have seen they've lost their quarterback. Chad Kelly's gone for the season now. Rebels did snap a 3-game winning streak, but they trailed at one point 21-10 in the first half of that football game. So things going from bad to worse in Oxford. South Carolina goes to 5-4 overall, 3-4 in the conference, beating Missouri, who's really bad, 2-7, 0-5 in the conference. I have a feeling there'll be lots of tickets available in Columbia on the day after Thanksgiving. If you want to drive up there for that game, you should be able to find one. All right, this week, Mississippi State rolls over to Alabama. It is Auburn at Georgia in the oldest series in the South, actually. South Carolina at Florida, Kentucky at Tennessee, Ole Miss at Texas A&M, Vanderbilt at Missouri, and the battle for the boot. How many of you are picking Arkansas to win it in Fayetteville this week? Well, most of the house. LSU, be honest, be brave. Real quick, up and down, up and down. We have also got New Mexico State at Arkansas State as ASU tries to continue on a roll. Nicholls State at UCA as the Bears try to set up that showdown against Sam Houston State. And, of course, this is my favorite week of the year, the Battle of the Ravine in Arkadelphia. Ouachita at Henderson in a totally unique rivalry. If you have never been, I think you owe it to yourself. If you're not going to another game already, to drive down. Weather's going to be perfect. They're saying 65 for a high, partly cloudy skies on Saturday. You can get down there at 1 o'clock. You can be back in plenty of time here in the Little Rock area to watch the Hogs at 6 o'clock. This is the 90th Battle of the Ravine. It hadn't been continuous. They cut it out for vandalism from 51 to 63. But it began back in 1895. So number 90, 1 o'clock in Arkadelphia. Also got Arkansas Tech at Harding. You've got SAU at UAM. You got Sewanee at Hendricks. And so games in Fayetteville, Jonesboro, Conway, Searcy, Monticello, and Battle of the Ravine in Arkadelphia. Get out and see a college football game on Saturday. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Rex. Appreciate that. Did you know that if Arkansas beats LSU this week, and this is an amazing stat. We just had one about beating Florida. It's been over 30 years, 35 years. If Arkansas beats LSU, it'll be the first time that Arkansas has beat LSU 3 years in a row since 1927 to 1929. How about that? So anyway, I thought that's a great, I'll give the speech again. I don't care if there's 5 of you, 10 of you, 20 of you, or all of you. I'll just stop right there. Hey, I do want to remind everybody real quick before we bring up Jim Rasco. I found out from Debbie, did you guys know that these are what the Embassy Suites count for how much they charge us each week for? So if you're messy and you've got 2 or 3 of these things, it just costs us $60. I'm just going to let you know. So Debbie, so listen, if they've got an extra one, should they take it back or what should they do? Yeah, take it back if you hadn't used it. Or can they wrap it back up? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. A.B. Metters, one of our board members, brought up a great point. It may be the greatest, Rex mentioned, the greatest turnaround in college football history where a defense gives up 550 yards only to 12 the next game. That's the most bizarre thing ever. And I do real quick, those of you that are 50-yard line members, raise your hand. Let's give those folks a round of applause for their support of the Touchdown Club. They pay extra. And if you're on our board, that been on our board since year one, or been added in the last 3 or 4 years, please raise your hand and let's give those folks a round of applause. We appreciate them. All right, so what Jim is going to do? He's going to introduce Ron and Jimmy, and once they introduce, we'll bring them up on the head stage, and we're going to have some fun talk about Razorbacks. Please welcome Jim Rasko, everybody.
Thank you, David. Today's two guests really don't need any formal introductions. Along with Ben Cowens and Larry Jackson, Ron Calcagney and Jimmy Walker were the co-captains of the 1978 Razorbacks. And I know all of you would rather hear more from Ron and Jimmy and less from me, so all I'm going to do is call your attention to 2 games that they played in as teammates, and then give you a quick list of the awards they each received during their junior and senior seasons as Razorbacks. First, a game we'll all remember. Let's go back to Monday night, January the 2nd, 1978, the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida. Steve Little kicks off into the end zone. On the first scrimmage play, Billy Sims is stopped for no gain by Jimmy Walker. Then after a 3-yard loss and a 5-yard penalty, Oklahoma faces 3rd and 18 from their own 12-yard line. On a draw play, Sims never gets the handle, loses 3, fumbles, and Jimmy Walker recovers for the Razorbacks on the OU 9. First play from the Hogs, Ron Calcagney keeps off the right side and slashes 8 yards to the 1-yard line. On second down, Calcagney hands off to Roland Sales, who slams into the end zone. Final score in one of the most famous games in Razorback history, Arkansas 31, Oklahoma 6. Okay, for the second game, let's go out to War Memorial Stadium, November 18, 1978. The game was moved to noon to be shown on national TV. Arkansas plays host to Texas A&M. At that time, Chevrolet sponsored the College Game of the Week and awarded scholarships in honor of the Outstanding Offensive Player of the Game and the Outstanding Defensive Player of the Game. Ron Calcagney scored all 3 of Arkansas's touchdowns and is named the Outstanding Offensive Player. Jimmy Walker leads the defense, holding A&M to 1 TD, and is named the Defensive Player of the Game as Arkansas beats Texas A&M 26-7. Applause for that, too. All right, Ron Calcagney is a native of Youngstown, Ohio. At Cheney High, Ron played defensive back, linebacker, I-back, and in his senior year, after Matt Cavanaugh had gone to college at Pitt, Ron moved to quarterback and led Cheney to a perfect 10-0 record. At that time, Coach Bo Ryan handled the recruiting for the state of Ohio for North Carolina State. But Frank Broyles hired Ryan to be his offensive backfield coach in February of 1975, and Ryan convinced Calcagney to come to Arkansas. Now, Ron may have tried to wipe this out of his memory, but when practice started at Fayetteville in August of 1975, I found that the Razorbacks had about 8 quarterbacks. So Broyles actually moved Ron to cornerback for a couple of days. But Ron was quickly moved back to quarterback. There he lettered 4 years for the Razorbacks. Except when injured, Calcagney started every game at quarterback for the Razorbacks for Frank Broyles in 1976 and for Lou Holtz in 1977 and 1978. Ron was a unanimous All-Southwest Conference quarterback in 1977. He was selected to play in the Hula Bowl and the Japan Bowl All-Star games following the 1978 season. Also, he was the first ever winner of the Jim Wellens Dedication Award following his senior season. Ron was inducted in the U of A Sports Hall of Honor in 2009 and into the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame in 2014. Razorback number 18, Ron Calcagney. Jimmy Walker played his high school football for the Little Rock Central High Tigers. I looked him up in my 1974 edition of Arkansas Football, and here's what was written about him. Senior Jimmy Walker, 6'2", 225 pounds, is a genuine prospect at either linebacker or tackle. He's got plenty of aggressiveness and 4.8 speed to boot. Then, due to his outstanding play in the Arkansas High School All-Star Game in the summer of 1975, Walker was awarded the last scholarship given by the Razorbacks for the 1975 recruiting class. And just like Ron, Jimmy lettered 4 years for the Razorbacks, and as promised, I'll try to list all of his awards during his junior and senior seasons. As a junior in 1977, Jimmy led the team in tackles for a loss, was unanimous first-team All-Southwest Conference, and was named third-team All-America by the Associated Press. And I will add that year, Arkansas only had 2 on the top 3 All-American teams, Leotis Harris on the offense and Jimmy Harris on the defense. Jimmy Walker on the defense. It was more of the same as a senior in 1978. Again, Jimmy led the Razorbacks in tackles for a loss. He repeated All-Southwest Conference and was named Defensive Player of the Year for the Southwest Conference by the United Press. He received the Crip Hall Award as the outstanding senior in the Razorbacks homecoming game. He was named first-team All-America by the Football Writers Association of America. He was voted the outstanding defensive player in the Fiesta Bowl game. He was selected to play in the Hula Bowl All-Star game. And later, he was selected to the Razorbacks All-Decade team in the 1970s. Then in 2011, Jimmy was inducted in the University of Arkansas Sports Hall of Honor. Here's Razorback number 75, Jimmy Walker.
Check. All right. Well, that's a high stage. Woo, high stage. I just took a phone call from. We're having any trouble there. Just took a phone call from Harold Horton, and Harold Horton wanted to make sure that he knew what a great player Jimmy Walker was. Come on up here, guys. Come on up. Jimmy, you can sit on the left, and Ron, you can sit on the right. But how about that? His old coach said, listen, he and Lloyd Phillips get together, who was the Outland Trophy winner, and said that they talk about who the greatest were. And he said that everybody talks about, I guess, Tommy, who am I thinking would have been with Lloyd Phillips? Is it Jim? Yes. But Coach Horton was talking about 2 of the greatest ever were you and Dan Hampton. So how about that? He called today. He wanted to make sure that he shared that with everybody. And Coach T, you coached on this staff, right? Yeah. Coach Ken Turner, one of the greatest coaches in Arkansas history right there. He coached more All-American kickers probably than any coach in college football history. Make sure that mic works. Check.
Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3.
Now, I got to tell you, the reason, I take
Ring of Fire.
They're good. That's good. Now, Ken Hamlin was supposed to be the speaker today, y'all, and he called me a week ago, 6 days ago, and said he couldn't make it. Thanks, Kenny, for the last second. So it was so nice for both these guys to step in. And what was funny, Jimmy was at the Southwest Conference Hall of Fame banquet. And well, this is the thing that caught my attention. Jimmy, we've never had him speak, but I've heard about you. And I hadn't seen a lot of your game film, but I know what you did in the Orange Bowl. Of course, I know what you did in the Orange Bowl. But it's funny, we had Dan Hampton going to the Southwest Conference Hall of Fame. So after the meeting, or I guess it was somewhere, Jimmy goes, well, nothing against Dan Hampton or anything. But he said, I was the Southwest Conference Player of the Year. Thank you very much. And it wasn't Dan Hampton. So now, hey, listen, Dan Hampton can't claim that. Well, real quick, first of all, why don't we tell everybody, I know Chuck Bill is here with FCA, and I know that's you're volunteering. Why don't you tell everybody what you're doing right now, Jimmy?
Well, thank you. And first of all, I want to just give honor to God first, because if it wasn't for being blessed, none of these things would have been accomplished. I want to also welcome my wife, Stephanie, and my sisters, Cheryl, and my brother, Bill. It's just an outstanding thing to be honored and to be appreciated here. It was kind of funny 2 weeks ago when Dan Hampton was given the honors, and I was here to support and all that, and then I started hearing some of the awards that he had received, and I said, wait a minute, I think those were my awards.
That's right. That's right. I forgot he said that. Steve Sullivan was the MC, not me that day. I just want to let you know if you got it wrong. So.
But, I volunteered with FCA. You know what, and it's a powerful organization that really reaching lives in this community, and we really need your support, because FCA is the foundation of a lot of these inner city kids having the opportunities to be mentored and showing that, hey, there is a God that's going to bless all of them. And if you get that foundation set, they have such a better start. I mean, this young man right here is a member of FCA that's one of the outstanding players of the outstanding player of the week. So I want to congratulate him, but he's also an FCA member. It's a great thing to have, and like I said, my full-time job, my wife would be choking me down if I didn't mention that we also provide legal and identity theft services for companies, and so any of you guys, hey, y'all need to see us before you leave here, because we need to protect your companies and families. But that's put it in a nutshell as far as what I do now.
And are you going to help start the church with Marcus Elliott? Did you tell me that?
Right. We go to New Life Church. We're going to be the New Life Church downtown when it does open, and that is
and Marcus Elliott,
Marcus Elliott is the pastor, who's also a former Razorback. Yep. We have like 4 Razorback players over. I don't know how that happened, but hey, it's going to be a great thing to be up under Rick Bazette, outstanding minister, and we're just excited about it. We join up with him this Sunday.
Ron, tell me about what you're up to these days.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jimmy, that's exciting. I'm fired up. And Michelle and Chuck Beal, the FCA directors here in the central part of Arkansas, what a great people, and we're excited that they were smart enough to get this guy aboard. So what I've been doing, I've been coaching and teaching at Pulaski Heights Middle School, and I've been doing that for the past 6 years. It's my 7th year, and very excited to have opportunities to work with the youth. And so that's what I've been doing. And I'm just excited that David let us pinch hit for Kenny Hanlon. I mean, I'm glad that I didn't have to pinch hit for the Cleveland Indians, face of that left-hander, 104 miles an hour. But I appreciate that very much.
I got to ask right off the bat, Jimmy, when you think of, obviously you guys were teammates, what do you remember about Ron Calcagni? And Ron, what do you remember about Jimmy? We'll start with you.
Well, let me say this, and I say it sincerely. Ron has the it. You know, it being a quarterback, when you're a quarterback in a major university, you want a quarterback that's going to be able to not lose the game for you. And he had that. I mean, if he kept us off the field, you know, that was great, because that was less plays we had to go on the defensive end of it. But I want to just explore to a little bit more about that. We always felt Ron was a smart quarterback, but he's a very smart coach. Let me tell you something. I was impressed with Ron this year, taking a team that had probably maybe 1 or 2 3-star players, playing against a team like Horseman, who had 11 bona fide 5-star players in junior high. Ron took their strength and used it against their weakness, and he wound up being the City of Little Rock champions. They were the junior high champions in the City of Little Rock. Give Ron. Yeah. And I also want to put in something. Hey, if some of these coaches at Monticello or UAPB better look out, because I'm going to recommend Ron for the job.
Ron, what do you remember about Jimmy?
Well, Jimmy Walker, number 75. You talk about a guy with tenacity. They had everything you needed looking for a defensive lineman: speed, quickness. And when we'd go spring games, David, you remember this, spring games, sometimes we'd go good on good, and where they would choose up the teams and everything. Everybody wanted the opportunity to get Jimmy Walker, because when Jimmy was on your team, you had an opportunity you were going to win, because he was going to cause havoc on that defensive side. But what a guy that was an outstanding player, and we had an opportunity to play all years together, coming in together, and to get to know him and be around him, and then to see what he's done. We both went to Canada together. He went to Edmonton Eskimos, and I went to the Montreal Alouettes, and had an opportunity to play professional football in Canada. But he also did one thing. You know how there was Betamax and there was VHSs and stuff? I'll never forget. We were trying to. I was trying to decide whether I was going to get a Betamax or a VHS machine. And Jimmy had the old Zenith Betamax, and he talked me into getting a Zenith. And I don't know about that. So I'm trying to transfer all that stuff over now.
Well, I got to ask. You're from Ohio, Jimmy. I've always heard the story. I think it's an intriguing story about, and Jim referenced it, about how, I don't know how many offers you had, but it was a last-minute thing. I think about Harold Horton seeing you at the All-Star game. And did you have a chip on your shoulder? Did you feel they had overlooked you? Tell us about what it was like being a senior in high school.
Well, to be a senior in high school, I was middle linebacker at Little Rock Central. And the Razorbacks would come, and Ken Turner and Coach Horton and a bunch of the Arkansas coaches, and they were recruiting Houston Nutt and Robert Farrell, who were juniors at Central. And my coach said, "Hey, look, we have an outstanding linebacker, whatever." And Coach Horton said, "Well, I don't know, he's kind of a dirty player. And I said, well, I don't know what middle linebacker is supposed to be, is nice or whatever, but but I'm gonna just say this. I've truly been blessed. God had His hands on me, and when I was voted the most valuable player of the high school All-Star game, Arkansas offered, and I really, I had a offer from Arkansas Tech and Georgia Tech, Georgia Southern, some of the other smaller schools, but I really didn't want to go to Arkansas because I didn't feel like Arkansas was interested in me. But when I said my prayers that night, I got the answer that God wanted me to go to Arkansas. And I said that if God wants me to go, I'm going to obey God and go to Arkansas because I see the victory at the end. Because if I'm doing what God tells me to do, I'm going to be blessed. And I certainly was blessed with a career, from being a defensive lineman, being most valuable player at 2 different bowl games, most valuable defensive player at the Hula Bowl, high school All-Star game. That was nothing but God. And that's the reason why I'm so passionate about FCA now, because I want to be able to affect some of these high school athletes on the importance of having a relationship with Jesus Christ. You can't win nothing without God. I mean, I tell people, all the accolades don't mean anything, nothing, without having that relationship with Jesus Christ, because that's the most powerful thing you can do, period. It ain't how fast you are, how strong you are. It's a powerful thing. But I just think that, I was grounded. My mom was a little ill today, but she was going to be here. But I'm thanking the good Lord that my brother has been supportive of me all my life, and my sisters. I want to tell this story real quick because people ask me, say, well, how was you so quick? I said, well, you know what? When I get to thinking about it, my mom made me quick. Because when she came out the door, when the lights got dark and I wasn't in the house, my mom would come out on the porch. She'd have a belt hanging, and I'd be out there playing football, and all of my friends, oh, you finna get a whooping. I said, no, I'm not. No. So I would have to go and fake my mom out just to get in the house, so I couldn't get a whooping in front of my friends. Now it was hell to tell the captain when I got inside, but I wasn't taking one outside.
Well, Ron, I got to ask, when you guys arrived, you were from Ohio, and you were around guys like Jimmy and Dan Hampton early on. Did you sense that this team could be great? Really, you take a guy who was late offer. Hampton played in the band. Right. I mean, you didn't know these guys were what they were going to turn out to be, or did you sense that?
Well, you mentioned about being from Ohio and you being from Florida. What an opportunity for me to come to the state of Arkansas and to live here now in Arkansas. I couldn't thank much more and have that and a pride to have an opportunity to be living in this great state of Arkansas. And Frank Broyles came to my home and spoke with us, and we had Woody Hayes in the home, Bo Schembecker in the home, and when Frank Broyles got in the home, my brother Mark, he also followed me to be a Razorback, and he played with David. But Mark would say, "My goodness, Dad, Frank Broyles is a lot bigger than Woody Hayes." And I didn't know if he was meaning stature-wise or, stature-wise as legendary-wise. But what an opportunity to to play for Lou Holtz and the Frank Broyles. But to answer your question about chemistry, to go 10-0, to win a lot of football games, you got to have that chemistry in the locker room. And the love that we had for each other was very important. And it all started from the top, of course, from Frank Broyles and Lou Holtz and the assistants that we had. The assistants had us over at their house and stuff and brought that relationship. It's all about relationships. Anything you do in life, you got to have great relationships. Having, like Jimmy mentioned about having a relationship with Jesus Christ is vital and important. But, Coach Holtz and Frank Broyles had a great staff. And they molded us players to become what we are today, right. And I'm thankful for that.
What is the difference? What are the differences with the coaching philosophies, and what do you remember about the coaching staff differences, and not only a head coach but assistants as well?
Well, we were just surrounded with great coaches. I can't take anything away, but Harold Horton was such an instrumental to me. Because he took me under his wings and he said he's going to make me a player. So, it wasn't that, when I first got to Arkansas, bear in mind, I wasn't gifted as Ron to have the coaches come in my living room, but I had to get the last offer to go to the University of Arkansas, which was the 33rd offer. So when I got to the university, the 32 freshmen that had already signed, they were all roommates up on the 3rd floor, and I was on the 1st floor. And I always tell the story because I said, well, wow, I'm the only one on the first floor. But it didn't hit home until the seniors, the upperclassmen got there 3 days later. And the upperclassman walked in the dorm room, my roommate, and he looked, he says, man, I'm not believing it. He stepped back out in the hallway. I can't tell you exactly what he said, but he said, I got an effing freshman for my roommate. And I said, wow, that's really a good welcome. But you know what? It's just being grounded. Because of just the support that I've had through the coaching staff. I can't say enough about my college coaching staff was the best I've ever had, from Ken Turner to all the great coaches that we've had in Arkansas. But they made boys out of men at the Razorbacks, and those things that I'll never forget. But probably the most highest award that me and Ron both. I told Ron this earlier on the radio station. Out of all the awards, probably the one that meant the most is being selected captain. Me and Ron were captains the same year by our peers. And that's just an outstanding thing because of your teammates thinking that you are the leaders. They elect you as captain. So I just thank Ron for being that leader that we elected on the offense. And, I was one of the ones on the defensive end.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'll agree with that. That was probably my greatest honor, is being a team captain, because you have the respect of the other players. Ron, I got to ask about the Orange Bowl real quick. When you're in the middle of that, do you understand the how big that moment was, or did Lou just make it and all your assistants just make it where you were laid back? And did you understand when you walked out on the field? It was almost like the Florida game this week. Yeah, we walked out on the field, and you could tell within a few series the game was over with. I guess that was probably a similar feeling.
Well, I'll tell you, before the game and the magnitude of the game and being 3 touchdowns underdogs and not having a chance that we were going to even be able to compete with the number 2 ranked Oklahoma Sooners. So, we were just, it was all about that, and also about the 3 players that Coach Holt suspended. But there was no talk about all the players that were there. That's what we had. We had players that were united together and great relationships and a great defense. We had the top-ranked defense in the nation that year. And offensively, we weren't too bad also, but we had some great All-Americans, Leotis Harris, which he did not play in the game too. So we had a lot of things that weren't tied up there for us to win that ball game. But we believed as a team, and Coach Holtz did a great job, and the coaching staff did a great job of preparing us for that game. We had a few wrinkles in there that we knew, and the coaches drilled it in us and had a great kicking game. People don't realize we had the greatest kicker, and Coach Turner did an outstanding job coaching that and didn't screw him up. I was going to say that. Steve Little, in the opening kickoff, he just kicked it through the end zone and through the uprights and everything. But, that was a weapon. So we had an outstanding team, and to this day, it's one of the greatest victories in Arkansas history. And as I grow older, it's the greatest victory in college football history.
What about you, Jimmy? What do you remember about that game and about you sort of guys defensively stepped on the field? You sort of felt it was yours from the get-go?
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about it. Like I said, when we were walking around downtown Miami and we had the same colors, red and white, people would run up to us and say, oh, you're Oklahoma. We said, well, no, Arkansas. They said, oh, well, good luck. So it's like, man, what is that? I'm thinking that I'm getting my pen out to get ready to sign some autographs. They ain't even want our autographs. So. But I knew that, from a standpoint, as a defensive player, that it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen on our watch. And we knew that, hey, the worst thing could be is 0-0. Because we had the number 1 or 2 defense in the country. We wasn't giving up nothing, and me and Dan Hampton and all of us would say, look, they ain't coming on this side. I said, if they get anything, it's going to be on your side, Dan. And Dan had to like it, the same thing. So we were competitive on the field with one another, and the fact that people didn't respect that. So we knew we were going to be respected. And I'll say this, the last thing, and it wasn't a thing, I never will forget, we went to eat at a club where it was recommended for us to go, some of the football players in Miami, in the Orange Bowl. We went in this club, and as soon as we walked in there, it was about 6 or 7 of us, there were Oklahoma players, they had taken over the place. They were on the microphones. They said, look, excuse this if it's starting to smell. We just had a few hogs walk in here. So, hey, we couldn't wait. Like I said, the very first snap, I hit the running back for a 3-yard loss. I couldn't wait. I didn't get tired at all that game. But, I want to say this. I lost Phil, I want to give an award of recognition to my dad. I lost my dad in June, but he was probably my greatest coach I ever had, in a sense, because my father started me off at quarterback, and he taught me not to ever quit. But the first couple of games when I was in playing quarterback, it was funny. My dad named the team. It was the Pee Wee team, but we were called the Sonny's Angels. And I said, my dad's Sonny Walker, but it was like, wow, that's not intimidating anybody, And so we go out. About the first 2 games, we had a lot of success. The third game, we go out to College Station, and we get off the bus, get out of the cars and vans, and these guys look like they're grown people. Man, is this the team we're playing, or is this another high school team or whatever? But I found out very quickly that I didn't want to be a quarterback. And I told my dad, I said, hey, look, Dad, I'm not quitting, but I just want to change positions.
Let me ask Ron, both of you guys, when you think about on your team, on the teams you played on and the teams you played against, who's maybe the 1 or 2 players that you have the most respect? And man, that was the greatest that I played with. Maybe excluding you 2 here today, who are the 2 maybe on Arkansas, maybe the 2 you played against, or maybe 1 that you really remember saying that was one of the greatest players ever that I played against?
On our team?
Either one, both sides.
Oh, boy, well, there's a lot of great players that we played against. Singletary, being one. Chicago Bears, great, and Baylor Bear, great. He was one of the guys. But on our team, I'd like to focus on our team. Larry Jackson, was a guy from Hot Springs that passed away a few years ago in a tragic death. Something that no parent in their life or anybody wants to experience something like this. Go on a vacation and be in the ocean, and then lightning strikes and takes Larry's life. And what a sad thing that was to hear. All of us, to lose a guy like Larry Jackson. But Larry Jackson was one heck of a ball player.
What about you? On your team, excluding Ron, who was the player as a teammate or that you played against, you remember you saying that's a heck of a player?
Well, no doubt about it, Dan Hampton was a great player. I think we complemented one another. So I'd have to say Dan was one of the greatest players that I've had a chance to play with. Fortunately, in the USFL, I also played with Reggie White on the side of him, and he was another great player. I mean, he's just no longer with us. But, as far as I'm with Ron in the sense that Earl Campbell, if you play on defense, I'd have to say Earl was, because, he brought a load. And, we would hit Earl, and he would get up before you and try to help you up. I said, well, don't help me up. So, right. And he was a classic guy who didn't really talk a lot of stuff. I was a talker, so, that was the thing that I'd have to respect. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I've always said, and I played against 2 pretty good ones in Bo Jackson and Eric Dickerson, but I said that would be the guy I would at least want to play against was Earl Campbell, just because he was so big and so low to the ground. Of course, they ran him in the ground in the NFL.
Right.
All right, real quick, we don't have a lot of time left. What do you think about what's going on? We'll start with you, Jimmy. What do you think about what's going on with the Hill and Brett Bielema? Do you follow the Razorbacks closely? What do you think about the program, the direction it's going?
Well, I like the direction we're going. I think that Brett's doing a great job up there. It's not an easy thing. The Southeastern Conference in this Western Division, there's just not a lot of weak links there. And you have to really be on your P's and Q's and play like no mistake free each week, because each week there's somebody that can beat you off of your mistakes. But I like the direction we're going. It's just we slipped a couple of times, but I think we've been able to get back up. Evident of that this week. To give up almost 600 yards and then come back and stop a team to 12 yards. We're going in the right direction.
What about you, Rob?
Well, Coach Bielema, he's an outstanding ball coach. He's a player's coach. And, to have a staff that he's put together and then people come take from your staff, that tells you a lot what they think about your staff members. So that's probably the greatest accolades that a coaching staff can get when you're losing your coaches. And then you have to replace and be smart enough to replace somebody that you think is better. So, and I follow the Razorbacks every week, and I'm a diehard Razorback fan, just like I mentioned. I'm just so fortunate to have an opportunity to come from Youngstown, Ohio, to make my home here. My younger brother's home's here also. He lives in Northwest Arkansas. So when I go to the Hill, I go see my brother, and I go see the Razorbacks. So I'm excited about that.
That's very nice. One of my favorite stories is Mark was obviously his younger brother. He's from Ohio. I come from Florida. And, you have the freshman doldrums, And I'll never forget Mark saying, he said, had a girlfriend back in Ohio. He said, Baz, he said, I'm ready to go home. This was like the first or second week we were up there. He was homesick. Baz, I'm ready to go home. And I got my girl back in Ohio. And what was the movie out with Brooke Shields on the island? It was a love story. And Blue Lagoon. I just remember the song was out, and I think Mark talked about I love that song, and just, you know. And now, you know what?
We've all been there, okay?
You know,
We've all
right.
been there.
But hey, here's the best part. Mark Calcagney now has spent the last 20 years of his life on a farm in Northwest
That's
Arkansas.
right. He
yes.
Wouldn't put a worm on a hook, and now he gives shots to cattle. And
How about that? All right, we'll open up for a couple questions real quick. Let's start. Chuck, I saw you know you raise your hand real quick.
Hey, Jimmy, tell us who was the graduate assistant that was head of your dorm when you were there.
The grad assistant, the head
Pete,
of your dorm.
Pete Carroll was
Wow.
Pete Carroll used to do curfew checks on us, and that was my freshman year, and it was funny because Pete really wasn't that much older than I was. We looked at him as someone that was our age, and he would come do curfew checks, and you know, a couple of times we would be slipped out, and Pete caught us coming in, and we used to threaten the men Dan and all that. Said, look, if you tell on us, we're gonna beat you down.
Johnny from El Paso.
Thank you. Ron, what did you think of the Bo Ryan documentary? That was on the SEC Network?
I had a chance
Well,
to see that.
let me
Don't
tell
talk
you.
about the Bo Ryan SEC documentary.
You know, that was a great documentary. You know, Bo Ryan, I loved him to death. He's one of the main reasons I came to Arkansas. He was from Niles, Ohio. Every morning he would be at my home, waiting, drinking coffee with my dad. My dad was a blue-collar worker, carpenter, and that Bo Ryan was a great football coach. But I love the documentary. I know Coach Turner, you know, I'm sure he feels the same way. That guy, Bo Ryan, was one of the greatest coaches. What an opportunity at that young age. He went from NC State to LSU, an opportunity. You know, I was just tickled to death for him, and my family was. But what a break at a young age. What an outstanding ball coach. I mean, tremendous ball coach. Great motivator, great teacher, great technician, and a great personable man that got along with everybody. And it was just a tragic death that he took.
Any other questions? All right, how about giving a round of applause to Jimmy Walker and Ron Calcagney, great Razorbacks. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll see you next week for the James Street Sportsmanship Award. Hey, Dwayne, do you want them back up here on the back? All right, guys, let's get you back down to where? Let's get you back up there, and we'll get some pictures. If you want to get your picture.